Can you tell us kind of if there's the moment or a series of moments and why you're like, this needs to be written?
Yeah. Well, the story is one that I've been carrying around with me ever since I understood the English language. I mentioned working with my dad from the start. As long as I can remember people, driving into in the yard, they were talking about this farm got sold or this farm went under. I just grew up living with that, having the sense that I was very lucky to grow up on a farm, that there's a proud and strong and important agriculture industry on the North American continent, but also that it's changing and that farms are disappearing. And I've always had that sense. And as I grew up and as I pursued my career off the farm, I was in business journalism for a number of years. I worked in public policy, and it was around the time that I was really in the throes of my business journalism career that people were talking to me about, you know, they were talking about, the time between the recession after 9/11 and the recession of the Great Recession. And they were saying, you know, they were the good years this and the good years that. And I remember thinking, when the hell were the good years? You know what I mean? And I just remember thinking that and farming, you've got your ups and downs, and there were years my parents were able to put away a little bit of money and then there were tougher years, but I had grown up experiencing that middle class living that they'd gotten for us, they'd secured for us slipping away. And I just remember thinking, boy, there's people talking about the good years. And I realized I'd grown up in a rural economy that had been left behind by the urban economy. And that's when I thought, somebody's got to answer that question. So that question's been walking around with me since I was a kid working with my dad. And I decided I really had to answer it when I realized just how big of a disconnect there was between what was going on in the rural parts of our country and what was going on everywhere else. And the real tragedy of that is not only is there a hollowing out of rural America happening, but that affects the food prices, the security of our food, and the health of our food for every dinner table. And so that was kind of when I decided that, I needed to answer that question.